Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. How you doing? Hope everybody is doing well. Manchester United, latest and breaking news. We're going to do Ruud van Nistelrooy has done a press conference, his last press conference as Manchester United manager. This will be his last game tomorrow. We're going to do a little bit of a preview for Manchester United versus Leicester City as well. We have injury updates on the squad, players coming back from injury, players that may be available for the game versus Leicester, and players who are going to return for injury and are going to be available that haven't been available for the first time. They will be available once Ruben Amorim takes over and takes in charge his first game. So we're going to get into all the good stuff, every latest breaking news surrounding Manchester United today and from yesterday as well. Before we do, please smash the like button for us because it helps the channel grow and we greatly appreciate it. So if you could take 2 seconds of your time, hit that like button. It greatly means a lot. It helps us out a lot. It is massive. So if you could do that for us, we greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the content, subscribe and make sure you hit the little bell notification so you get the notification when we go live so you never miss a live. Get involved in the chat and all the good stuff. Let's start the show with this though. Yesterday, Samuel Luckhurst came out with a little piece saying that it is unclear if Ruben Amorim will keep Ruud van Nistelrooy on as he plans to bring in his own backroom staff. Now, an update came out today about that as well, and an update came about that as well today, and we're going to get into that. But just before we get into that, there was a couple things that did come out as well that we need to cover. So we're going to circle back around to that. But one of the biggest pieces was that the Manchester United players are excited about the imminent arrival of Ruben Amorim as the new head coach. United squad members are impressed by Amorim's work and Sporting and now optimistic of having a successful season. That was also from Samuel Luckhurst. And the thing that went hand in hand with this is that Samuel Luckhurst also said United players have also been impressed with Ruud van Nistelrooy during a stint as interim coach. A well-placed source described Van Nistelrooy's impact as excellent. Now, my opinion has been, I love Ruud. You know, part of me doesn't want Ruud to go. I would love Ruud to stay. But I don't trust these players too much. And we have reasons why we don't trust these players as Manchester United fans. There's obviously good reasons as to why. Because we've seen them down tools before. We've seen them give up on managers. We've seen them go behind the back of the manager, over the head of the manager. And we have like PTSD about that. And I understand that. And I am worried and I am a little bit concerned because obviously the players have a real liking to Ruud van Nistelrooy. And that in itself isn't an issue. But the issue that he has taken the role of manager for a little bit. The players are a little bit accustomed to it. That's going to change. And a new man that is going to need 100% support, 100% backing, and 100% authority when it comes to the players itself. You know, there are grounds there that, you know, if the players don't like the way Ruben Amorim manages, they don't like his style, they don't like some of the decisions he makes, there is that feeling of there might be ground for some of the players to start, you know, not listening to Amorim, favoring Ruud in certain aspects. You know, and we don't need that. We don't need that. That cannot happen again because it's already happened at Manchester United with the few people in charge. So we can't go back to that. We can't even, you know, we can't even take the chance for that to happen, really. So I think Ruud should leave. I think it's probably better as a whole, you know, even for himself, because he could always come back. And again, I always said that, you know, Ruud can go on and go back to management, and I would like to see him develop a little bit more as a manager, get some more experience, go do your own thing. And there will always be an opportunity for you to come back because he's respectful, he's done a good job, he's done good as interim. And I think he's a decent manager right now. So I think for him it would be good, but for us it would be good as well. Give us a little bit of space from, you know, the ex-players the legends, the former Sir Alexes and players and stuff like that. Darren Fletcher will obviously still be there, but Darren Fletcher is a little bit of a different circumstance than Ruud van Nistelrooy. And yeah, so I just think that it's probably in best interest if Ruud van Nistelrooy leaves Manchester United. I think it's just better overall. Now we will get back to that, but for some player updates, some player injury updates, and Lions, before we get into that, Lions are saying City is in crisis. They absolutely are. 4 in a row. There's your 4 in a row. Your 4 in a row. 4 L's in a row. Forget your trophies. 4 L's. 4 L's in a row. Hold that. Hold that. They're certainly falling off this season, and it looks really peak for them. So, Pep might leave at the end of the season. The era might be coming to an end. Somebody said that once, and he was made fun of, even though I never understood really, because I think it's a factual statement in football anyway. Regardless of, what's happened to him and his managerial career and his manager time, it's still a factual statement. Eras come to an end. They all must end, and they all will end. What is Fletcher's position at Manchester United? It's a very good question, because I know he's some sort of a coach. But I don't know the actual title, so I will figure it out right now. And I will let you know. Fletcher, Darren Fletcher is a first team coach, so that's exactly what he is. So he was technical director at that one point under Richard Arnold, and co, and John Murtaugh. Obviously, when Ineos came in, they started making all the changes and they put in a proper hierarchy. He was technically demoted, because going from technical director to first team coach is technically a demotion, but he is first team coach, and I always said that I think Fletcher as a coach isn't a bad thing. But the difference between Fletcher and Ruud van Nistelrooy is that Ruud van Nistelrooy, number one, is an assistant and was brung in to an assistant. He was also brung in more so specifically for Erik ten Hag, so he is not there anymore. Erik ten Hag is not there, and Ruud has also gone on to actually manage the first team. He's actually gone on to be the interim manager. Darren Fletcher was a technical director, but he was never an assistant manager, and he was never a manager. He's a first team coach, and I think that's all right. But his dynamic is a little bit different to Ruud. And yeah, he is staying. Darren Fletcher will be staying. Darren Fletcher has been put in that position as first team coach by Ineos. So, and I don't think it doesn't really have the grounds for the kind of aspect that I think might or could happen if Ruud van Nistelrooy stays there, because I worry about these players. I don't trust some of these players. You know what I mean? I just don't trust them in the fact of that they like Ruud very much. It's been reported that they do. They look up to him. Even when Ten Hag was there was sort of this dynamic, like they responded better to Ruud. They reacted better to Ruud than they did to Erik ten Hag. And I don't think that helped Erik ten Hag. And I think the same thing can happen again to Ruben Amorim, and we don't need that. So I think for the best interest of Manchester United, we need to move him on. He needs to go. By, of course, mutual, and he can always come back. As I said, he can always come back. So it's not that big of a deal. But back to the player injury updates of sort, and we're gonna go a little bit in and out. But Luke Shaw and Lenny Yoro were both in team training yesterday. So it is being said that Amorim could very well basically, or not basically, but for sure have a full squad very, very soon. And it looks like that's going to be the case once he is in charge of his first match at Manchester United, which will obviously be in about 2 weeks' time after the international break. And the following update came from Fabrizio Romano about Luke Shaw, saying that Ruben Amorim's staff will assess Luke Shaw from the November 11th after returning back to training. So it looks like Luke Shaw is coming back into the fold. Lenny Yoro will finally make his debut very, very soon. And obviously, I think we're just really waiting on Tyrell Malacia, who is right behind and is going to follow up on that. So that's all good news. It's a good injury boost. Let's hope these guys stay fit, and as well as the rest of the players. Kobe Mainu is still a little bit further away, so he's not going to be in the Leicester match. He's still out injured. He's not going to be involved in any way. And Luke Shaw and Lenny Yoro won't be on the bench or anything like that for Leicester as well. But Kobe Mainu is expected to come back at once Amorim goes to take charge of his first match. So it looks like all the players are coming back. Hopefully nobody suffers any injuries on internationals. I think some of them are not even going on international. I'm not 100% on that, but I did hear some noise about that some of them are have pulled out or they're not going for one reason or another. So maybe it's a little bit less of a risk for us, but hopefully everybody stays fit on the 2 weeks that they go out and they come back to United healthy and ready to go, and everybody starts on the same page, and we start with the new project and we start with the new era, and we move forward. So, yeah. But Ruud van Nistelrooy did a press conference yesterday, and some of his quotes were, he said, "I made a conscious decision to commit to this role as assistant for 2 seasons and then take over from Ten Hag. For four games have not changed that feeling. That is why I said from the beginning that this is what I intend to do after my interim, is to continue helping the club." So Ruud clearly wants to stay. He seems a little bit desperate to say. I'm not trying to like paint him as a clown or anything. But he is a little bit desperate to stay because he's been saying it quite a lot, quite often. Obviously, no actual official decision has been made. It's still a little bit up in the air, but from Ruud's point of view, his mind is made up, his decision for himself, and I guess, if he had the say, he would stay on. But it's not really up to him. It's on Ineos, and it has to do with Amorim as well. So, if Amorim wants him, and Ineos agree to it, then they can continue, which I don't think Ineos will necessarily have a problem with it, per se. Maybe they do, but I think it's more so on Amorim because he is bringing in his own staff, so he's going to have his own assistants. So it's like, it's a little bit of a weird dynamic anyway, because, Amorim's bringing in 2 assistants. There hasn't really been talk about Rene Hake. Like, what are we doing with him? Because he's also an assistant, and Ruud will then also be an assistant. So we can't have 4 assistants. That's too many assistants there already. And I expect Hake to be the one more likely to go over Ruud van Nistelrooy. And if Ruud van Nistelrooy stays, we technically have 3 assistant managers, and I think that's just like one. It's the norm is usually 1. Now, in a lot in football, there's 2, which is whatever. If that's the norm, it's the norm. But I think 3 is a little bit too much, and 4 is certainly way too much. So we can't have all these guys as assistant managers. Like, it's not even possible. So for me, Hake will definitely go. And then Ruud is kind of like the one that's like 50-50. But, from Ruud, he wants to stay. He desperately wants to stay. But I just don't think, in my opinion, that it's the correct decision to do. So, and then Ruud van Nistelrooy talking about Ahmad. He said Ahmad has been examined and we continue to work so that he is ready for Sunday. So Ahmad seems like he will be available for Leicester, because I take it from that update, it's not as serious of an injury. It might just be a little bit of a knock. You know what I mean? And I think he should be all right, and he should be ready to go. And I hope so, because obviously after the performance on Thursday, and he literally won us that match himself, and he carried us on his back. And he was by far the best player on the pitch that we had. He deserves to start. And it would suck if he can't start or play any real amount of minutes to kind of build on that performance, and then also to not be involved because of an injury. I think a lot of people already were like, he was unfairly being left out, so he's missed game time, he's missed chances to progress properly, and a lot of people would say not due to his own fault. And then now, if he was to miss this game, it'd be like another missed opportunity. And again, it wouldn't be because he's playing bad or he doesn't deserve it. It would be because he got an injury, and that would be unfortunate. Ruud van Nistelrooy updated us on Kobe Mainu, which I already spoke about. And he said Kobe is progressing, but he is not yet with the team. He still needs time. So obviously, Mainu is looking like he will be back. for Ruben Amorim, because that should be enough time. I don't think he's that far away. It's another 2 weeks. And he should be back when Amorim takes over. And Lyons is saying about the assistant managers, too many chefs stirring the pot, and exactly, it's just too much. It's too much. We can't have that much. And that's why I'm saying, like, Ruud has to go, because we paid this money, and we made all this effort to bring in basically like most of Ruben Amorim's staff. And we did it for a reason, because like he needs his people around him, and that's the correct way to move forward as a football club. So we shouldn't really be doing and making decisions like and having sentimentalism, because Ruud van Nistelrooy is a legend of the club and he's an ex-player. Would I love for him to stay? Sure, but I just don't think it's the correct thing to do for the club as a whole. I think, he was brought in for Ten Hag. He was brought in to be assistant manager. We've clearly changed direction. We've clearly changed course on that. And he needs to be a part of that change, and he needs to go on. I don't think he'll have a problem getting a manager job. And continue to grow as a manager and come back one day. The door is always open to Ruud van Nistelrooy. It doesn't have to be right now. It could always be later, and I think at some point it will. Even if it ends poorly for Ruben Amorim, at some point, Ruud van Nistelrooy could always come back at that time if we need him, and if we choose to do that. So it's not that big of a deal to me. And like Lyons is saying, he can leave now with his head held up high, and that's another thing. He's done a good job to steady the ship, to come in. He's got one match left tomorrow. Hopefully, he gets the 3 points, and I think we can all clap him off. And as Lyons is saying, leave with your head held high. You've done a good job. You came in, you steadied the ship a little bit. Okay, like things haven't majorly improved in terms of us like scoring many goals, and maybe the style of play still looks a little bit funky, but he's certainly bringing a little bit more stability, a little bit more positivity, and it was on a short notice as well, and he didn't have a lot of time to prepare. He had a lot of matches come up one after the other, so I think he did a pretty good job. And he could go, leave, and be proud that he helped the club as much as he could in the moment that they needed him to help, and he stepped up and he did it. And go and continue and carry on your career and grow your career and grow yourself as a manager, and come back to Manchester United. That's all it is. There's no animosity. There's no shouting at Ruud. There's no like bringing him down, saying he's shit and he's not good enough and he needs to go. There's none of that. I think he's done a good job for the circumstances he was given, and he can leave with his head held high. And he can always come back. And I think nobody would have a problem with that as well. So Van Nistelrooy went on to say, he said, "I think we've done very well so far. The players have responded very well. Now we have to show that on Sunday. I don't know if it will be very emotional at the end of his interim, but I am very proud to be able to do that." And, I think it kind of just goes over what we've already just talked about. I think they've done very well. We were in a very bad spot. We've sort of sorted out at least some of the results. We got, what did we have? We played 3 matches. We got 2 wins and a draw. And the 4th one is yet to be seen. And he could finish with 3 wins and a draw, undefeated in his interim term. And I think he's done pretty good to try and get something out of these players, because these players have a lot of problems with them, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take time, as we've seen. Like, just because you sack Erik ten Hag doesn't mean all of a sudden the players are going to turn into world class. Like, Ruben Amorim has a big job on his hand, and he's got big things that he's going to have to change and get fixed, and it's going to take some time. So I think he has done a good job. Ray saying City crisis, but we're not ready to take over. Well, that's the only shit thing, right, Ray? And this is why we need to build the project and as strong as possible, because again, I think, like Erik ten Hag did say, errors do come to an end, and when errors come to an end, specifically somebody like a Manchester City or even a Liverpool, albeit though Liverpool are doing very well right now, and it seems like they've carried on, if not improved, from where they had Klopp, which is obviously frustrating and annoying to us, but that's the point of having a very strong foundation in your project, a very a very solid project, a very strong project, is that when it is time that these clubs, their kind of era of dominance kind of starts to crumble, you're there to, you can then, seize the moment. But unfortunately, because we've been so poor and we've had so many failed quote unquote projects, which I never even consider real projects, we are obviously not in a position. We are not in the position, and unfortunately, Liverpool is the big one that is in the position, because they've done what they are supposed to do as a football club, and they've set themselves up for the best possible chance to pounce on the opportunity that the likes of a Manchester City are doing very, very poorly, and especially for their standards, and especially for Pep's era. I think this was the first time he's ever lost 4 matches in a row. He's never done it. It's never happened. Clearly, they are struggling. Clearly, they are on the down right now. Arsenal are not looking as strong as they were the past couple seasons. Right now it does look like Liverpool are gonna start running away with it a little bit, unless they suffer some sort of setback, and it's yet to be seen, because you know um you know anything can happen for them. Really, anything can happen for them. Right now they're on a high. It's a manager bounce. It's a new manager. We kind of seen that with Postecoglou at Tottenham last season. We see that constantly. Let's see how the rest of the season goes, because that can wear off in the middle of the season. It could wear off towards the end of the season, or they could just keep going the whole season. So it's a little bit in the unknown for Liverpool right now, because they can continue like this for the rest of the season. It could fall off mid season, or it could fall off towards the end. So we got to see what happens with that. And hopefully maybe it comes a little bit tighter. And I think right now, most of us are hoping that there will be some type of a Leicester-esque type of thing going on with Nottingham Forest, and maybe they win the league, because that's the best possible. That's the best option we got, is that Leicester. I mean, that Forest win the league. Do I think it's gonna happen? No. I think they're doing an excellent job right now, but I do expect them to, fall out of that position eventually. But maybe they don't. We've seen crazy things happen before, so. And Lyle's in here as well. Lyle, how you doing? Hope everything is well. Van Nistelrooy did go on to say that on what he has learned, and he said, I've been so focused on getting the best out of the players, working with the staff to get United back on track, that I haven't thought about that. I've learned a lot from the other coaches and the players. He also said, it's the results that count, and I think the last 3 results have been correct. We've qualified for the Carabao Cup. We took a good point against Chelsea, even though we deserved more, and we got an important victory in the Europa League. The dynamic has changed a bit. Sunday is another important game, and I agree with Van Nistelrooy right there, and that's pretty much the sentiment to sum up his whole time as manager. Like, again, he was always meant to come in and steady the ship. He was not meant to come in and make groundbreaking changes and transform this team overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. Everybody that thinks, Ruben Amorim is going to come in, sprinkle some fairy dust on the squad, and we're going to become, just absolutely unstoppable. You're living in fantasy land. It's not going to happen. The possibility that can happen over a course or over a period of time, over the next, for the remainder of the season and into next season, it's definitely there. But if you think Ruben Amorim is going to come in and he's going to have us playing to the exact manner, the exact level that he's got that Sporting team playing, it's not going to happen. First of all, the Portuguese league is on a lower level than England, than the Premier League. The competition is much tougher. The Premier League is a lot more filled out with a lot more quality. And it's going to be harder. So it's not going to be an easy task for him. He might even start off with, a loss. He might even start off with 2 losses. Maybe starts off with 2 losses and a draw. There's no guarantee that he's going to come in there and all of a sudden we're going to win 3 matches on the bounce. We hope he does, but again, we see this. We know that the problems are bigger than just the manager. There are issues in that squad from the player aspect. So, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. And I think now that he is coming into the job, I think Manchester United fans, the fan base really needs to just calm down a little bit, start looking a little bit more at reality, and stop getting carried away in fantasy land. and really look at the task at hand that this manager has, and you know, be there, back him, and give him the time that is needed, because we all know that these problems will not be fixed overnight. It is impossible. And we all know, like Ray said, you know, like we you know, we are not ready to take over. Like, we are not there as much as we want to be. We are far away from that. So we have to build to that, and that's going to take time, regardless of who you bring in as a manager. Even if you've got 3 of the best managers of all time and put them in charge, it would still take time for them to build this squad to get to where we think Manchester United should be, as the club that it's supposed to be. You know, Ray said, so time proved Erik ten Hag right. When you have injuries, you can't perform the same way. Well, I think he was always right in that aspect, you know, and I think I would call them the outside fans, you know, the non-Manchester United fans, the media, etc., etc. I would call them out for that, because they've heavily hit us, you know, when we were in one of the worst injury crises, you know, for United, but as a team in general in the Premier League. And they just completely wanted to ignore that, because they wanted to hit Ten Hag hard as possible. Of course, injuries are going to they're going to make you regress a little bit. They're going to hurt your progress. They're going to set you back. I mean, you know, and it's funny because I tried to explain this to the friends that I have that are Arsenal fans, that are Liverpool fans, that are, you know, whatever. You know, when we were going through it, and their thing was always like, you know, Ten Hag is a bad manager. You guys are shit. And I'm like, listen, but I was like, take your team, and I was like, decimate it, and see how well you're going to do, you know. And I remember we did multiple shows where I said, any Premier League team in the league, give them the amount of injuries and the amount of reoccurring injuries we had last season. Give it to them and see how far they will get in the Premier League, because they won't win it, and they might very well fall out of the top 4 as well, because it's very detrimental. And now, you know, you see the likes of Arsenal and you see the likes of City. They're missing like 2 players, 3 players, main players, right? They don't even have the extent of injuries that we have or had. And they are struggling. And, you know, the fans are complaining, oh, we need Odegaard. We need Odegaard. That's one player. One. We were missing a whole defensive line. We didn't have a midfield at one point. We didn't have left backs at all for the whole season. You know, and I said the same thing was the same for Liverpool 2 seasons ago when they finished in the Europa League spot. You know, they lost Virgil, and it was the end of the world. They suffered a couple they had more injuries, but you know, even when they lose one player, they lose Virgil, it's the end of the world. They can't compete. City, they don't have Rodri and they don't have De Bruyne. They can't continue to be the team that they are. So you're talking about 2 or 3 players, and then we had 14 different injuries for most of the season, and it's all our manager's fault. I mean, like, you know, the hypocrisy is crazy. But you know, the smart people, obviously, you know, and the ones that don't have their head up their own ass, they obviously know that it obviously does have an impact. But I would just give it back to the Arsenal fans out there, and the City fans, and you know, and even the Liverpool fans. Like, you know, when they do suffer 1 or 2 injuries from the major players, like, oh well, you know, same thing you told us. It's part of the game. Get on with it. Richard is in here as well. Richard, good to see you. Hope everything is well. Hope you are doing good. Richard is saying, all things considered, I think it's better Ruud moves on. And that's what I said. Like, I think it's just better overall for the club, for the project, for Amorim, for everything. So, as much as I love Ruud, and I would love for him to stay, because I love to see him on the sideline, and I love that he's part of, you know, come back to Manchester United. And, you know, I think Ruud's a good guy anyway, and I think the way he conducts himself and he carries himself, I very, very much like it. You know, again, you know, this isn't sentimentality land. We're not a charity. We're not, you know, we're trying to be a serious football club. And I think that the best possible thing is that he moves on. He was part of Erik ten Hag. We've moved on from that. And if we are really serious, and, you know, and we've actually moved on, then, you know, Hake and Ruud van Nistelrooy need to go, and they got to go do their own things. And Hake has nothing to do with Manchester United. He came from Go Ahead Eagles. He was there more so specifically for Erik ten Hag than Ruud van Nistelrooy is. Ruud obviously has the aspect of being an ex-player and a legend of the club, so he has a little bit more of a connection, but still, it's the same thing for me. So Ray saying, I think Ruud should move on. I agree with Richard. Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of the fans out there, but there's a good majority that they want Ruud to stay. There's some fans out there that they're not sold on Amorim. They want Ruud to be the manager. They wanted Ruud to be the manager. I don't really know what grounds they really have other than he is a legend of the club and an ex-player, because I think in terms of being a coach, a manager, I think Amorim is much further ahead than Ruud van Nistelrooy right now. I think he has probably a better system as well. So I don't know what grounds they actually want that on, other than, Manchester United nostalgia avenue. So, and Amir is saying, give Ruud last dance with beautiful win. And I think that's the best we can really do. I think that's the greatest thing that we could do, Amir. I agree. And it would be like a nice ending to a short film or something, or to a TV show. It'd be like a nice little cherry on top, for Ruud. Like, you came in here, you did a very good job. We love you. We respect you. You steadied the ship. You did a good job. You got us some points. You advanced us in a cup tie to the next round. And you got us a couple points to help us improve in the table, and you gave probably the best possible position for the new head coach to come over and take, because you got some wins, you steadied the ship, you helped us out in the Europa, get 3 points, you helped us out in the league. So, the players, if they really love Ruud and they respect Ruud, if they're not going to do it for themselves, and they're not going to do it for the fans, and they're not going to do it per se for the club, very least you could do it for Ruud if you respect him, and you like him that much. Go out there and give him a win on his last thing, and then we start. So yeah, Van Nistelrooy also continued on, because he's got some more quotes that we should definitely get through. He said, Christian Eriksen played 30 minutes and Mason Mount also played. It's beneficial for us. I'm happy that they're back. And for the long-term absentees like Luke Shaw and Lenny Yoro are on the pitch with us. So, obviously, Eriksen was out for a little bit because he had an injury. And obviously, we all know Mount was out injured as well. They both played in the last match, got some minutes. So, I'm expecting them to be more involved in the match tomorrow. They should be there, you know what I mean? So for Eriksen and Mount, which is good. Mount is another one that, we need to keep 3 eyes on, because we need him to stay fit. And I'm going to say this again, I'm going to keep saying it because I think it's the most truthful thing, and it's the most accurate thing. If Mason Mount cannot stay fit for the rest of the majority of the season, we need to go into the summer and cut our losses with him and move him on, because we cannot have another situation similar to a Luke Shaw or even a Phil Jones to that extent of Mason Mount. I think Mason Mount is talented. I think Mason Mount, if he's healthy and can stay fit and be part of the squad and play majority of games, I think Mason Mount can be an important player for Manchester United. I think he could be a very impactful player and an influential player. But if you can't stay fit, you're no good to us in any aspect. You are literally a waste of space on the squad and a waste of wages. So, and that might sound harsh, but it is the truth of the reality. So Mason Mount needs to do whatever the hell Mason Mount needs to do to be available the majority of the remaining games for the rest of the season, and for Ruben Amorim. If not, Manchester United need to do the correct thing, and Ineos need to do their job and move him on, because obviously it's not going to continue to work well. And Richard's saying, just on the players that he hopes that they put on a show tomorrow. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's the very least they could do. And for everybody, for, again, for themselves, for the club, for Ruud, for us, the fans, just it's the very least they could do. Go out there and get those 3 points and give yourselves and the club and Ruben Amorim the best possible start to his era, and give Ruud a proper send-off, because I think he's deserved it anyway. So, one last stands for Ruud. Richard saying we cannot have another Luke Shaw at the club. No, we can't. We can't. It just doesn't make sense in any aspect. It hurts us player-wise. It hurts us depth-wise. And it is a waste of money as well because they still get paid. Luke Shaw, one of the things about Luke Shaw and like somebody like Phil Jones is like, if you miss 75% of the season, you're still getting paid for 75% of the season. We are paying a player to not play. And while it's not like that they're choosing not to play because obviously they're suffering injuries, it's just a bad thing for the club to have. We can't be doing that to ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in the foot when we have players like that aren't available. We need as many players to be as available as possible. And play as many games as possible because as we see, there's a lot of games, a lot of injuries come up. It's part of the game, of course, but the point is, maybe you miss, 2 matches, maybe you miss 1 to 2 weeks, not miss 75% of the season. So missing 75% of the season is too much. Missing 50% of the season is too much. That's not normal. So we can't be having that. We need to get on top of that. And Amir saying Ruud is leaving with a win written in the stars. Well, I hope so. I feel pretty good about the match tomorrow. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But Ruud also said it was very important to bring results to stabilize the situation 100%. And Van Nistelrooy also said on the lack of proven goal scorer, he said, I agree that to be successful in the Premier League and in Europe, you have to score a certain number of goals. That's why the best teams in the world have these players. At the moment, we have players who score a certain number of goals and provide assists, but they are at an age where they still need to be developed. They have the potential. And I think that is a pretty fair assessment. Like, we don't have any proven per se. I mean, we're supposed to have 1 or 2, but they're obviously struggling in their own ways. But when you look at the majority of the squad, players like Amad Diallo and Garnacho and Rasmus Højlund and Xerxes, etc., they have the potential to be those players that we feel like we need to be successful, but they are not there yet. And they need, they have their whole almost career ahead of them. They have a lot more time that they have to develop. They need to, they haven't hit their peak yet. They need to continue to grow as players. And they're just not there yet. Now, somebody like a Marcus Rashford, he's already well into his career, and somebody like Bruno Fernandes as well. And those are players that should be doing what Ruud is saying in terms of that, they should be scoring goals, they should be assisting, but they're not. They've been struggling, especially more so Marcus Rashford. Bruno, at least the past couple of games, he's been getting involved in that aspect a little bit more. He's gotten on the score sheet a couple of times. He's gotten a couple of assists. So, he's sort of helping out, but obviously we know Bruno can do much, much more. And, he did it a long period without doing it. So, it is sort of a problem, but he's absolutely right. I mean, at the moment we have players who score only a certain number of goals and provide only a certain number of assists. They're not proven goal scorers, and they're not proven assist makers in a sense. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't, and that I think plays into the inconsistency we see at Manchester United. Sometimes we play well, sometimes we get a few goals, and other times we play and we can't create chances, or we can't create goals, and we don't score goals. So our squad is a bit imbalanced in that aspect. But again, I think we're in phase 1. We need to build that base, that foundation of the house, as strong as possible, so that when we take the next step and start building the second part of the house, the second part of the club, the second part of the squad, the foundation doesn't collapse from underneath us, and we can actually build that properly as well. So, Lyle saying Shaw should be first name on the exit list in the summer. Mount has to prove himself. We have not even seen him play a string of matches. We don't know what we will get with him. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think everybody's in agreement that as much as, Luke Shaw is important when he is fit, and he is a good player when he is fit, and he's performed very well for us when he is fit, Nobody can make that sentence without saying when he is fit, and obviously we all know that that is the biggest problem. And Mason Mount is one that is like he leans very Luke Shawish. Like right now, since he's come in, he's been injured more than he's played. And you know, he does have to prove himself in terms of being able to stay fit. And then also, you can really judge him because we haven't been able to see enough of him on a consistent basis. We've seen him play here and there, and he looks good, and sometimes he looks a little bit less than good. But we can't actually judge and see, like, what is he actually bringing to us? Is it enough to be a Manchester United player? Like, we can't actually tell because he hasn't been able to do, like Lyle said, he hasn't been able to do a string of matches. So we can't actually tell 100% for sure. It looks like, you know, he can be an important player, but, you know, we're not 100% sure. It's all a little bit of sort of guesswork, you know? So, Lyle asking Richard and Ray, in our rich history, have we ever had a player as bad as a short injury wise? And I'm sure we have. And you know, not to go in on him, but I think Phil Jones was probably one of the worst because, I mean, you know, especially towards the end, and I know he had his problems. Obviously, he spoke out, and you know, the stories he told it's sad. It was sad to hear. But like Phil Jones was doing like whole seasons. Like the guy couldn't even like, you know, I mean, he told the story like he couldn't even touch a blade of grass in training. And I think Phil Jones was very bad. Unfortunately, you know, Owen Hargreaves was one that was unfortunate with the whole, you know, career ending sort of thing. And he was out. And I'm sure we have. You know, I'm sure we have. I'm sure, and it's unfortunate that it happens to them. Nobody wants this to happen to them, but it does happen. And you know, at some point, you gotta kind of move on. And everybody sort of has to move on. And you know, we can't just hold them there. You know, and try and play like sort of hospital. It just doesn't work in football. You know, football is it's a beautiful game, but it's also a ruthless. It's also a ruthless game. And you know, we don't really have time for that, especially in the situation we're in. You know, if we are the best team out there and we are, you know, pretty much unbeatable or unstoppable to a certain extent, you know, there would be arguments that maybe you shouldn't even be doing that, but like you can at least afford to do that, right? But we can't afford to have players like this because we're nowhere near where we need to be. We need to get everybody on side. You know, Lions saying Ali had a few bad injuries as well. Yeah, he was one that was sort of in and out as well. So, you know, you know, it happens. It does happen, but it's all about if you can you make yourself available more than you're out injured. Like even somebody like Ali, like sure he had a few bad injuries and you know sometimes he wasn't always available, but he was more available than he wasn't available. So there was still a benefit to having Ali. These players like Luke Shaw and players like Phil Jones and potentially Mason Mount and hopefully not Tyrell Malacia. You know, when you're like 75% to 100% or almost 100% out for season or seasons, you're clearly not giving us anything to really be able to hold on to. You know, but Van Nistelrooy also said it's easier to lead a team that has won two of the last three games. The connection with the fans is there, and there's a feeling that we can turn the situation around, which is the case at the moment. He also said he was asked whether he would one day like to coach United. I think everybody knows the answer to this. He said yes, of course. And I think he's made that abundantly clear that is something that he wants to do. So, you know, there's always that. Sorry, just give me a second. I gotta do something real quick. If you haven't smashed the like button, smash the like button for us because it helps the channel grow. So if you could take 2 seconds to do that for us, I greatly appreciate it. And thank you for doing that. But in other news, so Darren Fletcher, the last time we spoke about this, Darren Fletcher was given some sort of a suspension for something he did on the touchline or said something, whatever. And it has come out from the FA spokesperson saying that Darren Fletcher has been suspended for 3 matches and fined £7,500 for misconduct towards the refereeing staff in the tunnel against Brentford on the 19th of October. This was followed up by Simon Stone saying that Manchester United are planning to appeal that. I don't know what he actually said. I don't think we've been privy to that information, but clearly there was some sort of a dispute, spat, whatever. Darren Fletcher said some things. The referee didn't like it, whatever. They made a complaint about it, and he's been suspended and fined. And Manchester United are going to appeal this. So let's see what comes out of that. Which is, I find it interesting because I would actually like to know what exactly you said so that I can really say if maybe he does deserve the suspension and fine, but we can't really say since we don't know what he actually said, but I don't think we're gonna, we might find out, but it doesn't look like we'll find out exactly what was said, because I don't think the club will put that out. That would have to be something that would leak. Lyle is saying, for some reason, I feel Shaw is more worse than Jones, mainly because he wasn't missed and in a crucial role. Yeah, that's probably what it is, Lyle. I think it's more of that, Luke Shaw is somebody that when he is fit, he is our starter. We actually use him, and he actually is important and actually, makes things happen on the pitch for us. And we do tend to perform better. Especially down the left-hand side when Luke Shaw is available. Phil Jones was one that it was more so he was there. We were hoping that he was one of these Fergie signings, another one that is going to come and become this good player that we signed young. And he was very in and out, very early on into that. And then obviously Ferguson left and it just kept getting worse and worse. And he was very much or more so replaced almost immedately. He instantly became a backup. Then he became sort of not even a backup due to his injury. So, on Phil Jones, it was we sort of moved on from it quite immediately. Whereas Luke Shaw, while he does go in and out and he does miss large parts of the season, he would be available. And when he's there and he does get in form, he's one of the top left backs. So it does hurt us. So the focus on Luke Shaw is a little bit more because it's we consider you an important player. We consider you our first choice left back. And you're not available. And then we're constantly missing one left back, and especially even the center back position, you have at least 4, maybe sometimes 5 or 6 if you're lucky. And you could kind of rotate and you have a lot more depth. We don't even have that depth, and we haven't had it because we had Shaw out. Malacia also suffered a bad thing with his injury. And then we just have a kid or two. And we sold one of them. The other one hasn't been given any minutes in Harry Amos. So, it's a little bit of a different aspect as well. So, Lion saying, my mind might be playing tricks on me, but was Ali not sidelined for over a year at one point? Well, I was kind of young at that point. And I do know that towards kind of the later stages in his career when he was still playing around 2000 and something like that, 2002, whatever it was. I do know that he was getting injured a lot more for longer periods, and then he ended up, retiring. But I was a bit younger, so I don't know every aspect of how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's career went from start to finish. That would be something for Richard or Ray to really answer, because they lived through, they were old enough to know what was going on, and they obviously paid attention to it a lot more than me. So, but yeah, Lyle's also saying, Anthony 100% Xerxes got the first season jitters. I will judge him by next campaign, but Anthony's a huge flop. Now, Anthony's another one. Unless there's a resurgence of some sort, if he gets turned into a left wing back or something under Amorim, he's another one that's gonna have to go in the summer. It hasn't been good. It hasn't been a good 2 seasons. The third season hasn't been a good start either. So unless he could really turn it around, and it's gonna be a big thing, it's like turning around the bloody Titanic, from the iceberg, and it looks like it's not gonna happen. It looks like it's gonna crash and burn. he's another one that's gonna have to go. Xerxes, again, he's young, and I think people need to understand the circumstance of like this guy was not ready. If people said Rasmus Højlund wasn't ready to go to Manchester United last season, Xerxes was even less ready to go to Manchester United. He clearly needed another season at Bologna. He clearly needed to play that season out, develop more, but we sort of jumped the gun on it. So we took a risk, but now we have to kind of have to try our best to give him that platform to get that sort of progression that he probably would have got at Bologna, because it would have been easier for him. And it was less pressure, and there was less eyes, and there was less demands at Bologna. And obviously the difference between the Italian game and the English game is, the differences with speed and strength and all that as well. So, for sure, this first season, it has to be a developmental season for him. Next season, we're going to have to see, a clear progression in him for us to be able to say, all right, we have something here to work with, and not that it was like a mistake and we need to move him on. So, we can still give constructive criticism and stuff like that, because, there's certain basic standards that you got to do, and he's not hitting those really right now, and he's going to have to at least find that. But, he was never going to be one to come here and score 20 goals in one season, or 15 goals. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, the Lions, always his favorite line. Mike Smalling was another one with major injury issues. Yeah, he had some pretty bad injuries as well. Richard saying Ollie had a bad injury but was more fit than that. Yeah. Than not fit. Yeah, more fit than not fit. And that's kind of the whole thing, that the very least that I know is that that he was obviously, he might have suffered some injuries, but he was more fit than not fit. So he had something that he was offering us, which is why, we were able to keep him involved. Lion saying, Amir saying, I think Ineos should go crazy in the player in the January transfer window, and Lion saying we can't go crazy in Jan, we have no money. Well, I don't think we'll go crazy, and I don't necessarily think they should go crazy anyway, because January is a very hard thing to do business in, and it's hard for numerous aspects. Number one, teams are very unwilling to give up their players in January because it's the middle of the season, so negotiations are much harder. They tend to ask for higher prices, and they're not willing to really negotiate. Players, some of them don't want to move in January. It's the middle of the season. They'd rather just continue the season and then deal with it when the off season comes, and it's much more calmer for them. It's a lot easier than that. And plus, also January is very short. Like, you only have about 4 weeks, right, to do these deals. The deals can take 2 to 3 weeks, so it's very hard to do that. So I don't think you can necessarily go crazy unless, options appear, because sometimes options appear in the January transfer window that aren't available right now, but they do pop up. And if there's a good deal, or there's a couple good deals, and you can do them and you can get them done, then go ahead and do them. But that's more of a wait and see. We got to see what actually comes about and what happens, because January, sometimes is full of surprises. So, we got to see. But I would implore, at the very least, Ineos, try and get at the minimum one player in. 2 would be great, in my opinion, and maybe, if you can, move a player on or 2 to help us out, so that we don't have to do it in the summer, so we could focus on moving out some other players in the summer, and then signing some other players in the summer, where the majority of the transfer business is done, and it's much easier, and you have a lot more time, and you could be a lot more calculated and stuff like that. So and also, there's the aspect of the money aspect. We don't actually know the money situation. Obviously, we're not in the greatest financial situation at Manchester United. Does it mean that we can't get anybody at all? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But we certainly, from a money aspect, we also certainly can't go crazy. It would have to be like we have to sell to buy. Maybe we have funds for one player or something like that we don't have to sell to buy. But that whole financial aspect with the teams, and how their PSR and their FFP like reset after a certain time, and that kind of implicates, if you do business in January, it implicates it for the rest of the season, the rest of your your summer window and stuff like that. So all those things need to be taken into account. That's why January is very difficult. But we can't do what Manchester United done in the past, where we just completely ignore January, like we're a bunch of ostriches or whatever, and we stick our head in the sand and pretend like January doesn't exist, and we pretend like the window's not open. Like there are moves to be made, and you can do at least 1 to 2 moves, like at the very minimum, at the very least. So they got, for me, they got to do something like that. They can't just like pretend like January doesn't exist and kind of just like sit there whistling like and pretending like it's not a thing. Like you got to do something, because every other club does something. Arsenal will do something, City will do something, Liverpool will do something, Tottenham will do something, Aston Villa will do something. Like all the clubs will do something. It's just a matter of, can you go crazy? No, I don't think any club goes crazy. But you can make moves. So but Lenny Yoro did some speaking, and I want to get to Lenny Yoro. And Lenny Yoro said on adjusting to Manchester, he said it's perfect. He said, I have my house, my car, everything I need, so yeah, it's good. It's a bit bigger than Lille, but the weather is the same, so it doesn't change too much. My family is still in Lille. My girlfriend came with me, and my cousin. It's important not to be alone. So I like that from Yoro. And it's good to hear that he's sort of adjusted to life at Manchester, because a lot of players have a hard time with that, especially if you come from another country. Sometimes you're not used to the weather, sometimes you're not used to kind of the culture, or just like the place itself, the city, the building, the people and stuff like that. And it is important too, because obviously, if you come by yourself, it makes it a lot harder on you. Like, even if you have only 1 to 2 people, it does help you be a little bit more comfortable in that. And in that situation, when you're that young, I can't imagine, what is he, 18? I can't imagine as 18, like, you go live completely somewhere else for a job, basically, right? And you move away from everybody, your friends, your family, everything, and you go there by yourself. You know nobody. You go into a different place and a different culture. You're not from that culture. You're not from that country. And it'd be very, very difficult. So again, obviously it's part of their job as footballers. But they're also human beings, and this is a kid. At the end of the day, this isn't a grown man. This is a kid. He's still a kid. Like, if you took him out of football and you just put him in regular life, it is a kid leaving his family and the country that he's from to go to a different country, and leaving basically his family behind and going to a place where he doesn't really know anybody. So the fact that, he at least bring his girlfriend and his cousin with him, he's got some people with him, and the fact that, like, he's got his things, so he's a little bit more comfortable. And a lot of people make the weather argument, like Spanish players, a lot of them don't like the Prem because they're used to, like, the nice weather in Spain and in England, specifically Manchester. And a couple other places, it's always raining and it's always dark and it's always cloudy, so it could be a little bit depressing, you know what I mean? But if the weather's the same, then he's already used to it, so that's not going to bother him too much, which is actually a positive. So Lenny was also asked on his interests outside of football, which I always take an interest to, because I think it was something that Ferguson always took an interest to, and I think it was an important aspect in terms of player profiles that he identified that would fit Manchester United specifically. And he wouldn't ask them about football, he would ask them about life. Like, what do you do? Do you got a wife? Do you got a kid? Do you what do you do in your spare time when you're not playing football? And he judged those very, very highly on his thing. So I think it's an important aspect. And Lenny Yoro said on his interests outside of football, he said he really likes to play video games. He said, I play NBA with Kobe Mainu. He watches movies, and staying at home. Sometimes I go shopping, but that's it. And again, listen, I'm not one to try and tell people necessarily how to live their lives, but it fills me with a lot more positivity when you get a player like this, especially somebody young at age like this, where you can be tempted by many things and you can get yourself into trouble and you can hinder your career, and there's you can get into trouble. Somebody that it just makes me feel a lot more safer about them because they're not likely to kind of stray from their career. They're not likely to get distracted by too many things. You stay home, you play video games, you play, one of the video games with one of your teammates, so they get along. And they're sort of around the same age, so they connect well. You watch movies and you stay home and you go shopping. No night clubbing, no parties with weird celebrities or whatever. No going out and drinking at the pub and just getting yourself into potentially trouble, because you can do that stuff and be all right. But it can lead, there's a lot of temptations that come with that. You can stay out later than you intended to. You can end up drinking when you didn't want to, which can impact your game, which can impact you as a player. You can end up getting hungover and stuff like that, showing up to training hungover and whatever, or it could just take you off your game. So again, I think the player profile is very important, and players like this, where they sort of live a quiet life, they tend to have just a better profile for the club. Like, they do tend to really be the ones that are focused on becoming the best player possible. They're not distracted by too many things out there, and they don't allow themselves to be put in situations to be influenced by very bad things or very bad people that don't really give a shit about how good of a player they become. Like all these other people that might have money that you get surrounded by, like they just want you around because of your status at that point. But if you fall off, you best believe that they ain't calling you no more. Those people aren't really your friends. They don't really have your best interests in place. So I think it's a good thing to hear Lenny Yoro say stuff like that. Quiet kid. I like it. I like quiet kids. It's good. It's good to have them around. I think they really do stay focused on what's important, and that's being the best footballer for themselves and for Manchester United. Lenny Yoro also saying, he said, I'm close to everyone in the group. I have good relationships with everyone, but yes, most of the time I am with the young guys like Kobe and Ahmad. I also talk a lot with Onana because he speaks French. Garnacho is a good guy. Everyone is nice. I'm close to everyone. So obviously you see the importance of having a good core of these young players, because I kind of know what it's like in that aspect as well. Like, football is kind of a strange thing in that, like, you can get an 18-year-old to play in a squad, and then the rest of the squad is like, much older than you to a certain aspect. And there's always that differences in like, obviously the age gap. You'll be interested in different things. You'll do different things, and stuff like that. And I kind of understand that as well, because I technically work in an area where there's some young people, but there's a lot more older people. And I get along with them, but there's certainly a level of a disconnect. The things that I'm sort of interested in certain aspects outside of work and just in life in general is very different to them. They're in their late 40s, their 50s, some of them are in their 60s. Like, there's certainly a disconnect. So when I do end up working and there's some younger people around my age or even younger, like it's just easier to, you kind of catch on with them a little bit. So it is important to have that good core of those young players as well. Yeah, I went over that already. Lenny Yoro spoke on Rio's visit to Carrington, saying he just explained to me the greatness of United. He gave me some advice. It's good to spend time with legends of the club. They're part of the history of the club, so it's always nice to talk to them. He also said, every time I come to the stadium to watch the matches, I just want to be on the pitch. It's getting closer. I want to be on the pitch with the guys and fight for the club. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you, Lenny. So hopefully you will be here soon, and we know that you are on your way. So we're looking forward to seeing what you're going to give us. And Lenny, last thing I think he said, was asked if he had a message to the fans or for the fans, and he said the fans have all been amazing. They always support me, and they send me a lot of messages to support me during my injury. They tell me they can't wait to see me. I can't wait to be with them in the stadium. And I think that's very accurate. I think that's pretty much been the message from all the United fans. So it does show you that, like, they do see what fans say about them. You know what I mean? Like, he's clearly seen that, and that's clearly, that message has clearly gone across him, and you could tell. You know, in this case, it is a positive one because we want to see him. We're excited to see him. We believe in him, and we believe in his potential. You know, ability to become a very, very top center back, and clearly, he's kind of been robbed of that start because of this injury, and we all feel for him. So everybody's sending him messages of support. Now, I think you could play it the other way and say, well, when a player is getting overly criticized, heavily criticized, and it's a lot of negativity, that certainly obviously gets through as well, because if they're seeing, you know, these messages of fans that are showing them support and sending them messages, you know, and telling them that they can't wait to see him, they're obviously seeing messages when people are saying you're shit, you're crap, you need to leave the club, we hate you, and etc., etc. So again, I think it just highlights that, you know, they do one way or another, whether we like it or not. And I think it's very unavoidable in today's world that they do see what fans say, and when it's an overwhelmingly large message, it does get through to them, whether they actually want to see it or not. It's almost impossible, because even if they stay off of social media, somebody else that they know will be on social media, and somebody won't think about it and the impact it'll have, and they'll clip it up, or they'll take a screenshot and they'll send it to them on their phone, and they'll be like, hey man, like, they're really having a go at you. So it is very unavoidable in today's time, unfortunately, but you know, there are sometimes it's in a positive light, so it is a good thing, when some other times it's just very negative. Van Nistelrooy also had a couple more comments that he got to. Saying confidence is gradually increasing. We know where we are in the standings and where we want to be. The players will give their best on Sunday. Well, I hope they do, Ruud. I hope they do. You deserve it, and everybody else deserves it. Lion says, when I was 18, I moved to Alsace in France for a year, then to Galway, and then back to Bordeaux for work. That's crazy. He said it was bloody horrible. Well, you know what? At least he did it. You know, there's not many people that age or even older that can really say they at least did it. So, you know, I'm sure it was an experience, and, you know, good or bad, it's still an experience to have, and it does help you grow. You know, as a person, one way or another, right? But you know, it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. And so not Galloway, that was amazing. What I can remember, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing. Like, people have to remember that, you know, they are humans. Like, everybody gets carried away because they're footballers. They're like, you gotta play better. And it's like some kid that's like 17, 18, and like, he literally just left his entire family and everybody he knows to go to a place he doesn't know. And he might not even speak the language that well, and he doesn't know anything about the culture and the place he's at, and it's like, we've just picked him up and moved him here and dropped him here, and we expect him to be hitting all highs. Like, this guy, you know, not only is he worrying about the football, but then when he's not at football, his mind's probably going crazy. Like, I miss my family, I miss my friends, this and that. Like, you know, this kind of sucks, but like, you know, I got to sacrifice, and they do try to sacrifice, but it's not easy. It's not like, you know, they're not robots. It's not like they flick a switch and they go into Manchester, England mode, and they're like, okay, I'm here, like, I'm ready to go, you know? So, 5 years living in shitholes, but worked in amazing kitchens. Well, yeah, that's what it is, you know? Part of the experience. I mean, I don't think I would have been able to do it. You know, I don't know if I would even be able to do it now, because it is very difficult. I feel like if I had a great opportunity, I would at least, you know, at this age, I would certainly try it, and give it a go. But I know it would be very, very difficult, for sure. But at that age, at 18, that's the way I was and where I was at. Yeah, I don't think there was a chance. Not even if it was, you know, good money or a good experience. I think it would have been very, very difficult, very, very difficult. So yeah, I got sympathy for them on that, because I get it. I haven't lived it, but I get it. I could picture it in my head. So Ruud on Leicester saying, we know it will be a different team from the Carabao Cup, because obviously we played the reserves. He didn't say we played the reserves, but he then went on to say they rested a lot of players. a different game against different players. It's always difficult in the Premier League, and we will be ready. And I think it's a good point, though, that he is making, because people have to remember, like, yeah, we did just play them, and we did beat them in the Carabao Cup, but obviously we played the reserves team. They're going to play their first team, and it's going to be a different type of game than we played, and they're going to be on a different level to the one that we played. So it will be a different match in a way. So we have to keep that in mind, and I think it is a good test for Ruud and for the players, because you're beating the reserves. But now, we need 3 points, and we desperately need 3 points, and we're in the league, and it's going to be a higher quality. So let's see what you do. Obviously, we kind of played our starters, and we played in the way that we're going to probably play tomorrow again. So, for the Leicester City boss, setting up tactically is going to be a little bit easier, because they already faced us, and they know exactly, mistakes that they made in the last match, and making sure that's not going to happen. So it's going to be a little bit tougher for us on paper. And let's see what happens. Van Nistelrooy said on Bruno Fernandes making his 250th United appearance on Sunday. He arrived in January 2020, and it's November 2024. I don't need to explain how fit you have to be to play that many games. It shows his professionalism. He's an example and a role model. And we talked about this last time. Listen, like, I think it's a great feat, and I think obviously he makes some good points, like, that, like, for you to get 250 appearances in 4 seasons at Manchester United, obviously you have to be fit, and you have to fight, and you have to make sure that you take care of yourself. And even times when you have little, niggles and stuff like that, and you might want to kind of pull out, you don't pull out and you play. Like, I'm sure he's done that, but I also think a negative side to that is that, like, clearly him playing 250 appearances in a 4-year span, I do believe it is having an impact on him. Like, he is 30, he's only getting older, and I think I think it's gonna seriously catch up with him as he continues to get older. And I think going forward, we need to look after him a little bit more. Like, he does need to be rested times. He does need to be rotated. We can't have him playing, 60, 70 matches a season, 90 minutes a game, because it leads to fatigue mentally, even his body at times, whether he pushes through it or not. Like, and I think it leads to more poor performances. Like, I explained this one time about how I had a coach that was all about fitness. It was always running. We never touched the ball. We had training sessions, and it was just all sprinting. That was our training sessions. And I didn't realize it. I would go there and run. I wasn't the fastest runner. I didn't like running per se, in terms of, like, doing those drills and running. It used to make me feel sick. I kind of hated it, but we were required to do it. And then there was that period where, I was sick and I couldn't train, and it was for the last game of the season. And I basically had a week or a week and a half off from training, and then I was better for the game, and I wasn't 100% better, but I was like, it's the last game, we're fighting to win the league, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make myself available just to be there and support the team. And I obviously didn't start, but I was put in as a sub. I went on there and I was flying around because I felt so rested, and I was clearly fatigued when I didn't realize that I was fatigued, like, because I just felt like I had so much energy, and even myself, I was surprised, like, how do I have all this energy? And the manager, the coach, pulled me off 2 minutes after subbing me on, because obviously in Sunday League you could sub on, sub off as much as you want. Pulled me off to yell at me, because he was like, why weren't you doing this all season? And I was like, I didn't even know what to really say to him. I was just like, I don't know. I was like, I feel like I have a lot of energy. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I just been resting. I was like, I don't know. But then, later on when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, it's probably because you fucking ran me into the ground in training, and then when I get to the match, I'm fucking dead. And I think something similar to that aspect is kind of happening to Bruno. Like, we run him into the ground a little bit. So, like, when he performs very poorly and he looks kind of like the shell of the Bruno that we're used to, I think it is the number of matches and minutes. Why does everybody else have to be rotated and rested and Bruno Fernandes not? Like, he's not a fucking robot. He's a human being. He is a human being. Like, this science, the signs dictates it doesn't matter. As a human, like, you cannot do things like that. You will suffer some type of consequences. So Bruno, 250 games. How many games has Shaw played? I don't even know, but it's nowhere near that. So but yeah, that sounds crazy, Lines. Sounds like a hell of an experience. And I'm sure, well, like anything, it comes with good and bad. So again, I think very, very good for you. Rude also saying the 4 matches went by quickly and I enjoyed every moment. The connection with the players and the fans is there. Sunday will be the last of the series and it will be a bit special, but I am mainly thinking about preparing the team as best as I can. And Rude also said, I couldn't have done it without the support of the players, the staff, and the fans. You can't imagine the feeling when you come out of that tunnel and you get such a welcome. A big thank you for that. Well, hopefully we give you one last final thank you and send off as interim. Because again, I think you've done a great job, and you certainly deserve it. Yes, I'm in New York. I live in New York. I grew up in New York. I was born in New York. So yeah. Cheeto Obi Martin scored a goal in the reserves against Everton. So there's that. We're watching him. Toby Collier and Harry Maguire also seem set to come back as well. They're doing individual training, like workout and stuff. They're together. There's a picture of them that came out. They're on the bike machines in the gym area doing their fitness work and stuff like that. So it looks very, very good for Ruben Amorim. If we get 3 points tomorrow, and I think we will, and I hope we do. It looks the situation for Ruben Amorim to walk into looks very, very good. He's gonna have, a fully fit squad. We've put him in a position where we've gotten a couple points. We've advanced to the next round of a cup trophy. And he can really just hit the ground running from there and really get to work and start doing the things that he needs to be doing. Lion says, I randomly watch awesome documentaries on YouTube about the football soccer in Kearney. Well, I don't know too much about that, even though maybe I'm from here, but maybe I gotta give it a watch. What's it called? Because I'm not too familiar with that. But sounds like a good watch. Ruben Amorim has spoken as well. So Ruben Amorim on whether he's ready for his first conference in English. I mean, I can't with these people, and they're. Listen, I get it. He's going to England. I get he's going to have to speak English. I get it's an English team. But, like, what is the obsession with getting this guy to come and speak English because he's Portuguese? Like, I don't get this shit. Why do you gotta be like that? Just leave the man alone. He's already explicitly said, when I come to Manchester United, when I leave Sporting, I will do your press conferences in English. Like, leave the dude alone. What is this obsession with, like, having to speak in English? Like, I don't get it. But anyway, Ruben Amorim on whether he's ready for his first conference in English. He said, I'm ready. I'll have to choose my words carefully. Manchester United is still the most talked about club, but I'm not worried either. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a difference, but I think he still speaks English very well. I get why he's saying what he's saying, because when you try to do the translation, sometimes the words don't match up correctly, and you might pick a word that, the media or the public might jump on, and you don't necessarily mean it in that way. So I get that aspect, but I think from the English that I've heard him speak, I think he's very well accustomed to English, and I think nobody's going to have a problem understanding what he is saying. So, like, I don't think there should be any really severe miscommunications coming from his side and then from everybody else's side. So and Ruben Amorim on signing Sporting players, he said, not in January. That's what I said. I don't know about the summer. The first thing to do is hold out until the summer. And he laughed. The Sporting players are very good players. We'll see. So I definitely think that in the summer, he will go for at least 1 or 2. And listen, if we're ever going to do something where we're bringing a manager to come in and take players from his previous club or players that he's worked with, right? I think one of the best um things that we can do, or the situation that we can be in, is this guy take a couple players from Sporting, because Sporting are one of the top. They have one of the top academies in the world. They constantly produce top players that end up all over Europe. They produce very good players. So it's not the worst thing in the world, because some people might be like, oh, it's going to be like Ten Hag 2.0 all over again. We're going to bring all the Sporting players, but Sporting generally and always have, they're one of the top academies in the world. They make all sorts of players in all sorts of positions. So it's not even necessarily a bad thing. And in fact, it probably even helps us, since he's there and they like him, and then they come to us. They might come to us over choosing to go to the likes of a Liverpool or a City or an Arsenal or a Real Madrid, teams that are necessarily ahead of us in terms of their project, which can then help us build out our project and gain strength in that aspect. So again, I've always said, I've always respected and I've very much liked the relationship between Manchester United and Sporting. Sporting has always been very good for us. They've given us, you know, Ronaldo, Nani, you know, we're getting Amorim now. You know, they've been always very good to us. So I would like that relationship, and for it to be respectful and continue, because I think it's very good for us. And we're good for them too, because we give them business and they need money. So I think we've always been very fair with each other. They give us Bruno Fernandes as well. I think we've always been very fair with each other. I think we've paid fair prices. I don't think they've ever tried to rip us off. I think they're very fair. So I think they're a very good club to deal with, and they have a very good academy. So you know, it's a very important thing to do. Amad Diallo has an update, which is that a new contract for Amad Diallo is not imminent, but United wants to work on it, with the player very happy at the club. Ruben Amorim loves working with young talent, and Amad is looking forward to that and can't wait. So, very good, because I think many people are, you know, excited about Amad. I think a lot of people like Amad. I think a lot of people see something in Amad. I certainly do, and I think he is a talented player, and his journey has been one that, you know, it's taken some time, but I think he's finally gotten to a place where we all hoped he would get, and where we kind of felt like maybe when he first come to the club that he was going to get there a lot sooner. You know, there was a period in time where it looked like he might not make it, sort of similar to Diego Dalot, but he is now here. And as we can see, he's doing important things. You know, he's been very good ever since that Sunderland loan, and he's come when he's given the opportunities. And I think, you know, I think he's earned the right to get more opportunities. I think the fans, rightfully so, are asking for him to be given more opportunities, and there's a reason for that, because he's got something about him. And we should nurture that, and develop that as much as possible. And the fact that Ruben Amorim loves working with young talents is good for all of our young prospects that we have, all the players, the likes of a Harry Almas, Hoyland, Xerxes, Garnacho, Diallo, Kobe Mainu, Lenny Yoro, you know, Collier, all of them. It's very good, very excellent. So, you know, very excellent. And Richard saying Almas saved us on Thursday night. He absolutely did. We won that match only because of Amad Diallo. If Amad Diallo wasn't on that pitch, we weren't scoring goals and we weren't getting 3 points. He literally won us that match. So, you know, again, and again, then that rehashed the whole talk of why the hell did Ten Hag just, why did he completely disappear on Eric Ten Hag? Why did he even stop getting minutes? He you know, he even said that Anthony was performing in training better than Ahmad, and it's like, you know, we question that, because it's like, well, Anthony has gotten some minutes and he's done nothing, nowhere near to what Ahmad has done. So how the hell can Anthony be outperforming Ahmad in training? And then Ahmad comes on, has instant impact and a huge impact after being missing for quite some time, not due to his own fault, but just out of choice. And then Anthony's performing better than him, but then Anthony comes on the pitch and plays, you know, like he's non-existent and has no impact. So again, there was obvious problems under Eric Ten Hag, from Eric Ten Hag's side, like making decisions like that and whatever. They're strange, they're weird. We never really got it. We don't understand like what he was looking at and what it was and why he was doing things like that. Nobody understands it. But there were obviously bad or wrong decisions. And this is a small little glimpse into the problems from the manager side. The players still have their own problems because while Ahmad played fantastic and was man of the match, and rightfully so, the rest of the team was very flat, barring Mazawari, I would say. And they have a lot of their own problems. Not being able to make 5-yard passes, not moving off the ball properly. When we have the ball, when we're in possession, and when we're out of possession, they don't move off the ball at all. They don't do it well. You know, there's a lack of understanding between the players of, you know, what they're doing on the pitch when one is overlapping. Where are they? You know, how long do I wait to pass this ball? Do I hit it now? Do I hit it in a couple seconds? Do I put it over there? Do I put it closer this way? You know, there's all types of things that it is on the players as well. So, you know, I think right now, I think we should be giving Ahmad, you know, a new contract. Don't give him crazy wages and anything like that, which I don't expect. But I think Ahmad is definitely one in there that seems, you know, he's got a good potential. And he seems like he might have a bright future. And I think it's one that, you know, we should continue to pursue and see what comes out of that, because I think he's like probably the opposite of Anthony. Anthony seems like, you know, it's going nowhere. And his career at Manchester United is done. And I would say Ahmad is the opposite. And there's something there, you know, like it's almost like two plants. And one is pretty much dead, and the other one is alive. And you can water both of them, right? But you're kind of wasting water on the one that's pretty much dead, because it's most likely going to die. And the other one, you know, you water it and you have a good chance of it growing even more and becoming even more beautiful of a plant. So, you know, that's kind of how I see it. Like, Ahmad is the plant that obviously that is good right now, and if you water it some more, it could become an even bigger and better plant. And Anthony seems like the one that is, you know, if it's not dead already, it's close. It's very close. And it's almost like a waste of water. So, a waste of time and effort and energy. So, we do have to point out that Sir Alex Ferguson never lost 4 in a row as a manager of Manchester United, because I know there are people out there that like to say Pep Guardiola is better than Sir Alex Ferguson, and I would like to ask them, who dropped you on your head as a child? Because clearly you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So we'll just point out that Sir Alex Ferguson never lost 4 in a row as a manager of Manchester United, and Pep Guardiola has. So there is always that. Somebody want to update me on the Liverpool match, because I know they're going on right now as well. Lion saying Ahmad changed my mind about him on Thursday. Well, yeah, and you can do that, and you know that's why you got to do what you got to do on the pitch. Because listen, people are gonna be out there, they're gonna doubt you, for good reasons or bad reasons, for right reasons or wrong reasons. They're gonna hate you, for the same thing. You know, people are gonna think you're not good enough or whatever it is, for whatever the reasons are. And the only thing you can do is go out there on that pitch, do your utmost best, improve as much as possible, and change their mind. And you change their mind by performing and having an impact when you're on the pitch, and helping the team in every way possible. And you will win them over, because that's what football fans are. We just want players that are good and provide something for our club. And if you give that to us, you know, we'll die for you. You know, we'll defend you, we'll protect you, we'll die for you. But you got to give us something. You got to give us something. You know, this isn't again, it's not a charity. We don't just give just for the sake of giving. You know, this is it's a mutual relationship. Like, you give us something and we give you something, you know? So you got to do it. Liverpool is winning 1-0 against Aston Villa at halftime. Well, I mean, these guys just, I don't know. They are absolutely flying right now, Liverpool. Hopefully maybe we see sort of something of a Brighton, you know, that they just did against City to Villa. But, you know, Villa are away. So it's going to be tougher for them. Best possible case scenario, draw. Both of them drop points. Best possible case scenario, I would love nothing more than a draw. I'll take a Liverpool loss as well, but a draw is good, because they both drop 2 points, which is good just for all around. It's good for us. It's good for everybody else. So, um, yeah. Um, and I think we could also point out Phil Foden for Manchester City in the Premier League this season. He's played 8 games and he has 8 matches, and that's all he's accomplished. So give him the Ballon d'Or next. 8 games, 8 matches. What an accomplishment! What a player! Absolutely fantastic. Give him Ballon d'Or. Give him Ballon d'Or. No goals, no assists. 8 games, 8 matches. Put that in the put that on the Ballon d'Or. Write it on the back of it or whatever. Um. So yeah. Um. I'm just I'm just looking to see if we got any other news. Just checking to see if we got any other news. Let me see. Let me check this source. So Ruben Amorim does start in 2 days, just to keep you guys posted. Obviously, he is coming in on the Monday. Um, Penny Zavahi, who is an agent, said, "If I were Thomas Tuchel, I would have gone to Manchester United. He had the opportunity. Everything was prepared. The deal was virtually in dry cloths." All right. But he obviously didn't, and obviously he's the England manager now, and obviously we have Ruben Amorim. So, okay. A little bit of transfer news speculation for you, if you want. This is coming from Grant Bailey, who is considered a credible journalist out there, saying Manchester United are interested in Randall Kolo Muani. PSG are ready to allow him to leave on loan in January. So, this might be something that we might be able to do. We might be able to get in a loan in such as this player. Maybe we make some sort of a couple, like, something that we can do in January is make a couple deals where they are loans, with maybe obligations or an option to buy. That way, if they come to the club and they do well, and we like them, we can then keep them. And if they don't, then we don't have to keep them, and then we can just get better targets in the summer. So we can get, you know, we can get players like this. We might probably definitely need another striker. So, if you're gonna get somebody like Randall Kolo Muani, because I would say I don't necessarily, it doesn't fill me with confidence to go buy him, because I would rather buy somebody else like a Gaio Perez or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how well he's doing over there. I don't think he's like, on fire, I would say. But I also don't think he's like necessarily a bad player. Um, but I wouldn't know how I feel necessarily about that. But if we go and loan him in, I'm totally fine with that. I think that's a good move. And then we could also have something, an obligation to buy, an option to buy, or something like that. That way, if he comes in and we like him and he does a good job and he sort of integrates to the squad and he's good, we could just, he's already done that integration process halfway through the season. And we could just continue on, and then it's like one less target we really got to worry about or whatever, and then we move on to other positions, other aspects. So, Ruben Amorim also had this quote about Uruguayans specifically. So he seems to have some affection for Uruguayans. He says, "All the Uruguayans I managed are incredible, and that's why I love all Uruguayans. Ugarte is a very talented boy and has a lot of room to grow. I am very happy to know that I have him back at Manchester United." So I think Ugarte is going to be one that we're going to probably see the best. The bet is yet to come for Manuel Ugarte, and I think probably for him, he's excited because I think he enjoyed his time under Ruben Amorim, and I think he likes Ruben Amorim, and obviously Ruben Amorim likes him. So it seems like it's going to be grounds for, a good space to grow more, to develop more, to become the best possible player, and to become an important player for Manchester United and become successful. So, yes. Lyle saying, Lions is saying that he's glad that Tuchel didn't join, and now that we have a Ruben Amorim, well, all things happen for a reason, and I'm actually happy about it too. Because remember, I told you I wasn't too set on Tuchel, and I would have definitely preferred, and I definitely liked Ruben Amorim over Thomas Tuchel. So, yeah, I'm happy that we have Amorim instead of Tuchel as well. Lyle saying Kolo Muani on loan could work. It could very well, and yeah, I wouldn't be against it if we do it. I don't know. I don't feel that same way if it was a permanent buy, but on a loan, I'm here for it. And if you loan a couple players in, 2 or 3 players with some obligations to buy or an option to buy, I'm here for it. I'm here for it because it'll help us during the season, and then we can also, it's almost like a trial. You know what I mean? We're not going to be stuck with them permanently. If it looks like it was a bad move, you know, we can sort of wash our hands of it. If it is good, then we can, you know, stick our hand further in the mud, and really get stuck in, you know. So Alien Tenno has joined us and says, big up RDE and chat. Big up to yourself, Alien. Also goes on to say, so far, Liverpool are going to be 5 points cleared. City can't function without Rodri and De Bruyne. And Arsenal are just Arsenal. Yes, I believe Patrice Evra has the quote of the century, and he said, Arsenal is like watching Netflix. You always have to wait until next season. That was a direct quote from Patrice Evra. Absolutely fantastic quote. And it was absolutely hilarious. But yes, Arsenal are just Arsenal. But I would say Arsenal are just like Netflix. You always have to wait till next season. Uncle Pat coming out there. Love Uncle Pat. And Manchester United has a football as a football need to man up, seriously. Well, we spoke about that a little bit earlier, Alien, in that, you know, I think it was Ray that said, you know, City are on the decline, and we are not there to sort of seize the opportunity to take the next step up, and we're not, and it's unfortunate, and this is the reason why you need to have your club set on a good structure and foundation, because by now we should be there, but we're not there because of the failings of the previous regime. And this is why it's the job that Ineos have are so important. And whether you wanted Ineos or you didn't want Ineos, or whether you think Ineos is good or you think they're bad, or whether you like them or you don't like them, the main important thing is that we need them to succeed. We need them to succeed because we need to get the club into a position where, when things like this happen, like our former manager said, that eras come to an end, and they certainly do. You can pick any club out there blindfolded, and you can pick their name, and you can look through their history, and you can look through the history of football, and there is always an era where they were dominant champions, and then it collapsed, and then they go back. And it happens all the time. And teams that stay at the top, they don't live there forever. At some point, at some time, it will end, and another team or another club come and take that position. But you can't be that team unless you are in that position. And we have not put ourselves there because of our own failings from the previous regime. So we need Ineos to do the best possible job, because unfortunately, we've, you know, it's 11 plus years. We've had more than enough time to sort this shit out, where, you know, this time might be actually coming. Like, this might be very well the end of the City era, and more so or less, especially under Pep. Like, City can still be a very good team, but a lot of people don't expect them to be as dominant as they are since Pep leaves. Now, they can continue to be a good team, sort of like Liverpool have done under Slot after Klopp, right? Like, they haven't completely fallen off. They haven't done what we've done. They can do that. They can fall off, very much more so, but, you know, that's to be seen. But we've wasted time. We've dicked around, and we failed too many times with fake projects. That I don't even like to call them projects, because they were never projects. A project is something that has, you know, a basis to it. A project has something that has a concrete plan and has a clear direction that you're going to follow, and that you follow through and see it out. And you, at least at the very least, you get to the end of the project. And if the end of the project doesn't yield the results that you aimed for in the beginning of the project, you then move on to the next project. We never did any of that. We never had a real project. The project was always bullshit from the Glazes and their people that they put in charge. You know, the project was never an actual project. It was just a bunch of random bullshit that they tried to pass off as a project, and obviously it would always collapse and it would always end in disaster. And then, to buy themselves more time, they would come out and be like, well, we're going with a new project, hiring a new manager, etc., to buy themselves more time. And that's why it's important for Ineos, because they're not going to do that. They might have to change managers multiple times, but but changing the manager doesn't necessarily mean you're sort of resetting the project, because the project that they're trying to put out is, again, the reason why Ruben Amorim is a head coach. The sacking of a head coach should not be as detrimental to us going forward as much as it has been in the past, where we spent all this money on the manager. We have to sack the manager. We get a new manager. This manager plays totally different with a totally different idea and philosophy and a game model. And therefore, none of the players we got and spent all that money on are any good to us anymore. Now we have to go do the same thing on those players. And by the time we get 2 years down the line, that shit falls apart and we start it all over again. And the part of the job that Ineos have is to make sure that that stops happening. Even if you have to sack the head coach, it shouldn't be to the detriment of the effect of, we spent $400 million on these players and now we can't fucking use them. And now we have to go spend another $600 million on players for this manager. That has to stop. I think it's going to stop. I think it's already stopping. And I think right now is the start of that under Ruben Amorim. Clearly they have their idea, their philosophy of what they want to play, the game model. And if if Ruben Amorim fails, or it comes to the point where he gets sacked and we have to get somebody else in, it shouldn't be too much of a difference, which should help us as we continue to try and progress and grow. But they have a big job to do, so they have a lot of work. But it is unfortunate. And that's why a lot of us are pissed and angry, because we're gonna miss out on that opportunity. And hopefully, when we do finally get to the position where we are there to seize the opportunity, we will be there. Like, we need to be there. And we just need to put ourselves there and then wait for our chance to pounce. Lion saying, I've recorded the century. Yeah, it was absolutely hilarious. Lion saying, Forest, Liverpool, United, and now City. It's our time again. I can feel it in my water. Well, what are you drinking? I got this water. I'm gonna look in my water. You can feel it in the water. Do you see like a reflection or something? I don't see nothing. You got magical water? Can I get some of that? I need some of that water. You got magical water. Very special water, he says. Yeah, we need that water. Can we get some of that? Can we ship it to the United players and put it in their water bottles on the sideline? Can we ship it to the United players and get that water to them? Maybe it'll give them special abilities. Yeah, we need some of that. In your loins. In my loins. Oh boy. No, we don't. No, we don't need that special water. We need magical water. Like, I talked about the magical fairy dust that Amorim might have. We need magical water that has like magical properties to it. That's what we need. We need special water. Not the special water that you're alluding to. We need special water. But listen, guys, it's a good place to end the show, because we've run out of news and we've run out of things to talk to. We could give some. I'll just look at the Leicester game. real quick, and we'll provide some stats, a little bit of an outlook. So let's get that. Let's get that there. We're obviously at home. We're obviously playing early. We are going to be the first game, so it's going to be an early. It's going to be an early Red Devil recap. So I hope all of you will be there. Obviously, it'll be Sunday though, so it'll be good. And there's also something that I need to tell you guys, so don't go anywhere, please. Just give me a second. But all right, before we do the Leicester thing, I'll tell you guys so it's easier to say. So because of my job, things are gonna change for the little bit of the foreseeable future. Because I'm going to be working a lot of hours, and I'm not gonna be as available as possible. So we might be streaming fairly a lot less. I also might not be able to do like Red Devil recaps as much, because we're going to be doing 10 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and then we're also going to be working on Saturdays. So if we play Sundays, then no problem. But during the week, if we have matches and stuff like that, it's going to be nearly impossible because I won't be home. And also for me to get home from where I'm working, it's going to take about an hour and a half. I'm not pregnant. It's not possible to. No. So the scheduling thing might be a little messed up. We might be doing less shows for a short period of time. This isn't gonna last forever. But certainly for the next month to 2 months, probably till the end of the year, it is going to be a thing. So I just want to give you guys a heads up, like, you know, if we play a game during the week, for example, like Europa League, you know, following when we come back on Thursday, like, I won't be able to do a Red Devil recap. I mean, I could technically do it, but it would also be very late, and it's going to be very late for you guys, because if I'm doing 10 hours, we most likely finish at 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that. By the time New York time, by the time I get home, which takes me an hour and a half, it'll be like 6:30, 7 p.m. And then I still have to eat food and shower and stuff like that. So it would just literally be impossible. Plus, you guys will be sleeping, and it wouldn't be a good time to do the streams anyway. So, you know, we might have to take the hit and do less shows at less times, but I will do the shows whenever I can. So obviously, I could always do one on Sunday. We could always do one on Saturday as well, because Saturday will be like I only work 8 hours, and then I can come home and do them, and then I don't have work the next day. So so stuff like that. So there's like certain days that we'll be able to do it more so or less. During the week, at least for now, unless times change, it's going to be very difficult. So I just wanted to give you guys that heads up, because I don't want you guys to think like, you know, I don't want you to be surprised, like, if we play a match on a Thursday and I'm not around and I start skipping shows. You know what I mean? It's literally because I can't do them, because it's impossible. So we'll still be around. It just won't be as free as we've been. So you know, it is what it is. I gotta do what I gotta do. So but you know, we'll still make time when I can. For example, Sunday we'll always do a show. Going forward, most likely also because we play most of the matches on Sunday, but Sunday is a day where it's a free day, so we could always do a show on Sunday, for sure. And you know, that's about it. So just wanted to give you guys that heads up. Give me score predictions before we end, right? And I just wanted to do some of the Leicester stats before we get out of here. So our record, we have a very similar record, or recent stand of form to Leicester. In our last 5 matches, we have the last 5 matches in the Premier League is tie, loss, win, tie, loss. Leicester have draw, loss, win, win, loss. So they have 1 more win and we have 1 more draw. So we're almost about the same sort of form in the last 5 matches. We're pretty much in the same in the same standings. We're in 13th. We're in 12 points. Leicester are in 15th on 10 points. So it's actually a very important match because if we lose to Leicester, they will jump over us and we will get pushed down. So we need the 3 points. And also we need to keep up with some of the teams in front of us because Bournemouth are on 15, Brentford are on 16, Tottenham are on 16, and Villa currently on 18th with the result that is at hand right now. And Newcastle is on 15. Bournemouth have already played and Brentford have already played. Tottenham still need to play and Newcastle still need to play. West Ham can't jump us because they already played and they have 12. So we might be able to move up 1 to 2 spots. Depends what Newcastle does, what happens to them. And depends if obviously if we win, we up the goal difference. So we'll hop Bournemouth on goal difference. And then we can be closer to the top 4. So Richard is saying Richard says it's all fine. We can work around it. We absolutely will. I just need to give you guys a heads up so that you know what's going on. So if you see, that we're around a little bit less or not doing as many shows and not covering as many things, it's for a very good reason. So, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out for sure, and we'll still make time somehow, one way or another. Richard saying 3-0 United. And Lions is saying 4-2 United. Well, I think it'll be 2-0 or 2-1 to United. I think we'll still probably struggle to score a little bit of goals. But I think maybe we'll be able to find 1 or 2. And I don't know. I think Leicester could get a goal somewhere as well. So because I don't think we're that strong. We're not the strongest defensively. We had a clean sheet last match, but the opposition we played wasn't the greatest, and they certainly could have scored. They had that opportunity. If it was a high quality team, they're scoring that goal. So I could see them getting a goal, but I still expect United to win. 2-0, 2-1, something like that. Maybe even a 1-0. Because I think we're still struggling to score goals. And if they come out tomorrow and surprise us all, fantastic. But I just think the way that we've been going, I don't think we're just magically gonna appear with 3 or 4 goals. The last time we played them, we played reserves, and the only other time we scored more than like 3 was when we played Barnsley. So those aren't great tests. When we get tested, we struggle. So I expect it to be sort of a lower scoring game and a lower tally, but Vardy loves scoring against us. Well, I will tell you, between us, so currently not between us, but team streaks in general, we have no losses in 3 matches. Leicester have no wins in 3 matches. So a draw could very well be on the cards. Leicester are 4 matches without a clean sheet. So they do give up a goal, which is good for us because we struggled to score. So we could at least get 1 at the very least. Both teams scoring. So have both teams scored in each of their respective matches, and 5 out of 6 of the last 6 matches for both Manchester United and Leicester. I think this is in the Premier League specifically. That has happened for us. We're on the same level of that. So that's why I'm saying I think I could see like a 2-1. Or a 1-1 or something like that. Manchester United have scored first in 4 out of the 5 of their last matches. Leicester have conceded first 5 out of the last 6 matches, which is good for us and plays into our hand. Now, typically, I notice this, and usually what happens is the other team that always concedes first somehow ends up scoring first. So I don't know why that happens, but it does happen. Like, the streak right now favors us. We've scored 4 in our last 5 matches, and Leicester have conceded first 5 in their last 6 matches. So you would say United are going to score first tomorrow. But every time I look at that, the opposite, and not just for us, just any team, the opposite happens, where the team that's been conceding first a lot, they end up scoring first somehow. So, it's good, but hopefully we actually add to that and we score first, because it's important. Now our head-to-head battles, Manchester United have 3 wins against Leicester, and we haven't lost in 4 matches versus Leicester. Leicester are without a clean sheet versus us in 20 matches against Manchester United, which is absolutely an insane stat. So that's to our benefit since we are struggling to score goals. That's very good. 6 out of the 8 times that we've played Leicester, there have been more than 2.5 goals. So I could see, the 2-1. 6 out of the 8 times we've played Leicester, both teams have scored. So again, playing to the sort of the 2-1 there. First to score, 4 out of 5 times that we played Leicester, Manchester United were the first to score. And not many corners. And not many cards. So should be a game that sort of flows. There should be a lot of football. Shouldn't be too many stoppages. Historically, obviously we played them in the EFL Cup. We beat them 5-2. When we played them in the Prem last February, we beat them 3-0 when we were home. We beat them in the beginning of that season 1-0 away. In 22, we tied them 1-1 at Old Trafford, and we lost to them in October 16, 21, 4-2 when we were away. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely in our favor, but let's just get the 3 points. I think that's what we're all here. Lia's saying that 3 points will be sweet. Chelsea and Arsenal playing each other. Forest against Newcastle could be good to close the gap a bit. Come on, United. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's very important. We need the 3 points. I don't care how we even get it. I don't, at this point, I don't even care. Just get the 3 points. You could play absolutely boring and dismal, and I'll say you play boring and dismal, but at the end of the day, if you get the 3 points, I'll be happy with that because we need the 3 points. And it's very important. And Lai is pointing out, Chelsea are playing Arsenal. They could both drop points there. Forest is playing Newcastle, which I didn't even realize, which is big because Forest is up there. Newcastle is right under us. So Forest can beat Newcastle and help us out. They could tie. They could drop points. So there's a lot to ride on here in this game. And we need these 3 points. So, let's get it. Lions are saying 3 points are in the bag. The water never lies. Lions saying it's all in the water. Let's ride the waves. It's all in the water. All right. In the water we trust then. In the water we trust. I hope so. Let's see what the magic water does for us. And we will be back tomorrow after the match for the Red Devil recap. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for getting involved in the chat. Shout out and big up to all of you. Lion, Lyles, Richard, Ray was in here. Alien Tenno was in here before. Amir, Fikray was in here as well. Shout out to all of you for getting involved. Thank you for being here. Thank you for smashing the like button, everybody. Everybody have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And we will speak tomorrow after the match. And hopefully United get the 3 points and we send Rudolph with the good thing. And we have a positive show to do tomorrow. So take care of yourselves. And we will speak very, very soon. Enjoy. Thank you for being here again.